Tobin Brothers Funerals, celebrating lives.
It's the overnight crowd with Ed Cowlishaw, thanks to Tobin Brothers Funerals, celebrating lives on SEN 1116. Well, tonight we're talking the sport of sports climbing. It's a little bit different. It has been added to the 2020 Tokyo Games, and it's very exciting for a whole bunch of athletes that are probably sneaking under the radar when it comes to us around this country. One of those stars of sports climbing in this country is Emma Horan, and she joins us now. G'day, Emma. How are you?
I'm good. How are you, Ed?
Very well, very well. Hey, this must be a great fillip for the sport to be finally accepted into the Olympics.
It's definitely been a long time coming for me. I've been climbing for 17 years, so it's a sigh of relief.
How much work goes into actually getting a sport recognised as an Olympic Games?
So the International Federation of Sport Climbing have been campaigning for about 5 years now.
Yep.
We were shortlisted for Rio, but just got missed out on that one. And then we made the Junior Olympics last year. So we were a display sport there. And then, this year, 2016, we got the tick for Tokyo, which is very exciting.
So does that give you a sense of, hey, this is something that I can't wait for, but also you've got to go through the right processes to get Australia qualified for 2020?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's not going to be an easy feat. Like, we're in Australia. It's not a particularly mountainous area, so we don't have the history of mountaineering that Europe and North America does. But, we're a very competitive nation. We all know that. We're also really good at sport.
Well, that's it, isn't it? I mean, your passion for climbing, you mentioned you've been doing it for 17 years. How'd you get involved?
So my sister went through an outdoor rec program here in Canberra. So she went outdoor climbing quite a bit just as a bit of a hobby, and then she really liked it, enjoyed the technical side of things, and took me along to the climbing gym here, and I was hooked.
Now, do you prefer the indoors or the outdoors?
I enjoy them both equally. Outdoors is very relaxing. It's lovely to be out in nature looking at all these nice scenery, but then indoors I'm a very competitive person, so I like to win. I want to be on the podium, and it's hard to juggle those two.
When it comes to indoors, you've got bouldering and you've got different types and styles of climb, and also the fastest up, but how do you differentiate the technical versions of climbing indoors?
We've got speed climbing, sport climbing, and bouldering. So speed climbing is obviously most straightforward, the easiest, the fastest to the top, which is generally on 10 metres and goes at about 5 seconds. That's the fastest, 5 to 10 seconds. And then we've got bouldering, which is the one that I specialise in, and that's very short, very hard. You're only on the wall for less than a minute. And if you fall, you land on mats. It's sort of like the sprinting of climbing.
Yep.
Short and fast-paced. And then you've got lead climbing, which is like the marathon running. So it's more of an endurance-based sport, a bit slower.
Marketing this sport, how have you guys been going in doing that? And I guess you finally got to recognise at the Olympics. Now you've got to sell it to the Australian public and get behind us.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think the best facets for the marketing will be the speed climbing and the bouldering. As I said, they're short, they're sharp. You're doing really big, powerful, explosive movements that people are going to respond to straight away. So I think showcasing that the most is the best opportunity. It's going to be about the athletes being educated on social media, because as we know, social media is the best marketing out there at the moment. So it's going to be on our athletes to be marketing the sport primarily.
How big's the team?
The Australian team is the Open Australian team is about 10 athletes, and then the Junior Australian team is slightly more than about 15.
How do you guys go about funding yourselves and getting yourself over to these world competitions? Because I imagine over the next 3.5 years, it is really going to heat up with various competitions, and the pressure is really going to be on for qualification.
Absolutely. It's really difficult, to be honest. As I said before, there's not a huge mountaineering history in Australia, so we don't have brands like the North Face or like Cliff Bar, or these big North American companies that throw lots of money into their adventure athletes. We don't really have that over here, so we're relying on traditional sporting companies to donate money, and they're yet to really see the benefit in outdoor sport. So it's tricky. Hopefully the ASC will get behind it a bit and give us a bit of money, but at the most of our athletes are mostly self-funded.
Yeah, and that's the tough thing, isn't it? I mean, if you're wanting to go to these major tournaments and I also get the right coaching and the equipment.
And provide a future for yourself if you're a student.
Can you make a career out of climbing?
You can, but you've got to be quite smart about it. Again, it comes down to the social media, and it's not. And in the end, it won't so much be about a career as an actual climber. It'll be a career more as a social media.
Has this sport been featuring heavy in games such as the X Games? Is this where it's sort of come across, or is it a hybrid sort of a version from the Sir Edmund Hillary days, for instance, and it's just come indoors? Is that where it's all sort of stemmed from?
Yeah, it's definitely stemmed from that. I think the popularity lately is coming from the lack of free time that a lot of people have and looking for these sports that aren't necessarily scheduled. So you don't have to be at your team practice at 4 p.m. or 6 p.m. or whatever it is. You can go into the gym whenever you want. There's always going to be something new to try and something new to challenge you. And it's just a bit more exciting than heading into the gym and throwing some weights. So,
for instance, maybe on the lunch break for you in Canberra, pop down to the gym, and if you're working on a move or something along those lines, especially with the bouldering where you're not too far off the ground, you can actually spend 20 minutes on and then head back to work and off you go.
Absolutely. The growth of bouldering gyms is just phenomenal at the moment. Just pure bouldering gyms are popping up everywhere, and it's because you can just head in by yourself and do a quick workout.
Yeah, I know. I mean, in Melbourne, they're just popping up left, right and centre. Down Swanston Street, you'll just look up and there are people climbing on walls and you're just going, you never know what you're going to see when you look up. But there are people inside these glass rooms and they're just walking and bouldering and working out these different techniques. And I guess when it comes to the techniques of bouldering, are there different styles? Are there different ways of traversing these walls that can give you a bit of an edge?
Absolutely. So in bouldering, in my competition, there's 5 climbs that I have to complete in a round, and each of those climbs has a different sort of style. One might be very technical and bouncy, one might be very powerful, another one might be a jump. So there is definitely ways that anyone can really climb. If you're not particularly strong, you can stick to the technical stuff and still be quite a good climber. If you are really strong, then go on the steep stuff and just use your arms all the time.
Australian sports climber Emma Horan has joined us on the program to talk about the sport. It has been accepted into the 2020 Tokyo Games, which is terribly exciting, and everyone is up and about in it with the association. How is the feeling for Australia going forward into these Olympic Games in a couple of years' time? Are we around the mark?
I think we're on it at the moment. I mean, the training program for the junior team is fantastic at the moment. We're seeing a lot of really strong juniors actually competing up with us in the Opens, giving us a run for our money, to be honest. So it'll be really interesting to see who is actually selected to be our representatives at 2020, because there are some really strong guys coming up.
What about the age demographic? Is there a peak age where someone is performing at their best at a mid-20s, 30s?
That's the great thing about climbing is you can, as you get older, your technical ability only gets better. You don't lose that. That stays with you. So you are seeing still top athletes close to 30 winning World Cups, and even older than that. But then you've also got Ashima, who is a 15-year-old girl from New York, just blowing the men away on all these outdoor climbs, doing the hardest things that most people have ever dreamed of. And she's absolutely destroying it. So you've got 30-year-old men competing with 15-year-old girls, and that's really awesome.
How do you find the balance between building up your core strength, but also making sure that you have that flexibility to pull out those moves on the wall?
It is it's a big juggle, managing strength and flexibility for sure. I spent a lot of time with my youth doing a lot of flexibility stuff because I wasn't very strong. So that stuck with me, luckily enough. But I do know that a lot of climbers do have to do a lot of yoga work on top of climbing and Pilates to keep that core strong, but also the flexibility.
Now, I know my young one, he's only 18 months old, but I was thrilled the other day when we were at the park and he decided to go and climb in a tree and muck around. And that's where all our inhibitions are found in. Our imagination runs wild when we're younger in that we start climbing things, whether it be trees or on playgrounds and things like that. How are you getting the next generation involved with this sport? Because I I would have thought at a very young age, a lot of kids would be really keen to get up and about and start climbing around on the walls.
It's huge. The gym that I climb at, the under 9 program there, is the biggest program in the whole gym. It's just under 9. We've got one of the other girls from our gym who's moved to the Blue Mountains now to climb full time, who was only 11, is one of the first. She was the first girl to climb a 30, which is one of the hardest climbs in the world at the age of 9.
Wow.
Yeah, it's incredible, and they've got such good power to weight. It's incredible it's going to be amazing to see what these people can actually do in another 10 or 15 years.
You mentioned the age, it has no barriers here, but do you see it sort of going down the gymnast path where the elite gymnasts of the day are pretty much in their, they haven't even hit their teenage years, a lot of them. Do you think that's what's going to change the face of climbing with the Olympics?
I definitely think it's going to be something that we're going to have to be aware of, but I think the fact that we are aware that we are very similar to gymnasts in build and in training, I think that will be a bit of a helping hand. So those who don't know their history are doomed to repeat it.
Looking ahead to 2017, what are the biggest tournaments that you've got coming up?
Well, I've decided to change my focus a little bit, I think, and instead of bouldering this year, I'm going to try my hand at a few of the international lead comps. Last year, I managed to podium at an intercontinental at the Oceania, which was a surprise to me because obviously this was not my discipline. So I think I'm going to try my hand at lead climbing and see how I go in the endurance aspect of it, especially coming up to Tokyo 2020, where we're going to be expected to compete in all the disciplines.
Sounds exciting. It must be an absolute boon for the association and sports climbing in general around this country. And to think that you're in Canberra and it's pretty flat out that way, that we haven't got many mountains. Probably the Blue Mountains is the closest to you to really work on some skills outdoors. But the bonus that you can go into these gyms nowadays, work on your skills, only take a little bit of time out of your day, and then also preach the sport to this younger generation. I think this is going to be the next big thing, and hopefully it's just not a one-hit wonder with the Olympics. We get to see it at the next 4, 5, 6 and make it a real boon sport.
Yeah, I really hope so as well. I think it's going to happen.
Emma, thank you so much for your time tonight, and look forward to catching up with you throughout 2017 and on your journey to Tokyo, hopefully in 2020.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me.
Emma Horan there, stopping by and having a chat to us here on SEN 1116. Sports climbing, check them out, of course, online. A great way to get involved with the sport. You can check out Emma's profile as well and watch her journey unfold as she heads to Tokyo in 2020. Sportsclimbingaustralia.org.au. Follow the links and maybe get the kids involved with this. Bit of fun and games at your local gym.